in this video, I have a saying about giving a rat's ass that's kind of funny. That how can you give a rat's ass? The ass of the rat isn't yours to give, so let the rat keep his ass. Or you can pick up a rat and hand him to somebody else's ass first, and yes, you're giving a rat's ass. And if the other person wants to accept the rat ass first, to give a rat's ass, you're sort of offering up the rat's ass, and it's up to the other person if he wants to accept. So I'll have another saying too, that in some certain things, that if a rat's ass should really be offered or even given about a particular subject. So that's what I say about tolerance to a certain thing. You can say sometimes you give a shit. There's some and I also have a thing where I say there's certain aspects of giving a shit or giving a fuck. It's not that I don't give a shit or give a fuck. It's there's some aspects of giving a shit or giving a fuck that I don't give a shit or a fuck about. And at any given time, when and where should a rat's ass be given, or a fuck be given, or a shit be given, or even offered? You know what I mean? Alright, what's up, yins guys? Time for another video. I'm going to try to get this video made before all the noisy traffic in the background starts interfering with it, but if not, I'll just do it over. But here it goes. This one I've been meaning to get around to talking about, but I talked about it in person and in text and different things and other methods, and write about it too. But yeah, it might piss somebody off, and some people might be flipping me off. But yes, I have a right to laugh about it. But as a disclaimer here too, it's not intended to be an offense to any of you, anybody out there who may have got their life together and, you know, got off of some kind of drugs or drank too much or whatever. You know, for example, if I talk about this, I'd say people be saying, "Oh, fuck you! I'm an ex-addict and you're being an asshole." Put it that way, I was never no addict. I'm talking about relatives I had that are. But put it this way: instead of getting all bent out of shape, if you were an ex-addict or any kind of a thing, tell you what, you have a right to be proud of yourself and proud of doing well, and you shouldn't have to go down a couple notches or feel guilty about doing well because somebody else's bitch ass feelings that maybe is jealousy or whatever. To be fair, yeah. And I'm trying not to laugh here, but yes, I have a right to laugh in a situation like this, even though I'm not going to think I don't think it's funny if you had somebody that you knew you had some close relationship or relative or something that died of some kind of shit, no deed. I'm not going to laugh at you. It's not funny. But if you get bent out of shape about this, then basically it's your problem, but I don't talk. But I'm talking about here in situations that are not like this. For example, I had a relative and a cousin who, yeah, some of you guys watching may have had a relative like this. That, yeah, maybe when you were kids, everything was good and they changed and all that stuff. And later on, for example, yeah, I talked about this in a video separately. If you have a cousin or a relative that gets out of shit all the time because they're a cute one, and even before they got into drugs and parties when you're younger, how you always got all the shit punished for everything as a kid, and then the relative that's the cute one, they run around her. Then later on as a teenager or in high school, you get dogpiled for petty shit, like verbally dogpiled or something, but they can do damn near anything. They go to these parties. The one I'm talking about, I read in a book called The BS Syndrome, which if you want to look up a book called The BS Syndrome, there's Mr. Irresistible, the one that's the cute one that everybody adores. They're compelled to give them things. But yeah, there's also the author didn't do with the female version of that. But if you're watching this as a woman, maybe you had a sister or cousin, and as a female relative that was like this, the cute one, for example. That they were okay when you were young kids, but later on, they thought that they were big shit because they were popular. All the girls and these are the kind too that all the girls and even women and all that. They'll make excuses for and even protect them from trouble or prosecution. Make excuses for them and go to bat and try to protect them and all that stuff because they're a cute one or whatever too. And their luck runs out. And in my case, I had a cousin that was like, yes, I'm laughing about this right now because, I don't want to tell the life story, but it was like up until we were teenagers, and I'm trying not to make a big story about it. But then later on, grew up, I wound up with good paying industrial job for some years. Then later lost it, and went to college, and then got back into workforce, got back on my feet and yada yada, and I'm still here today. Oh, and I have a cousin this cousin I talk about, which my brother mentioned to me. I talked to my brother in text that supposedly it was said that he OD'd and died. And yes, I was like, oh well, the poor bastard's out of his misery. Yeah, you have a right to think like this. If you have a relative maybe you were close to, I'm not going to laugh at you. You know what I'm saying? But if you have a relative for one thing that, say, when you were younger, maybe they got big in their head, they held you up to ridicule, and later on, because they got big when they're popular, they want to make sure they're good and popular and make sure every little thing that you don't get friends. You got those kind that when they're older, they would try to hold you up to ridicule in front of your own family or whatever the hell, shit like that. The real narcissistic ones. And well, later on, when I landed a good paying job and stuff, and he was in and out of jail. Oh, and there was one YouTuber, a friend of mine too, that talks about narcissists and all that stuff, and she mentioned story would be up her alley, because she mentions how narcissists are. They're popular for a while, and and everything else, and they start waning in popularity in and out of jail. Then eventually, those friends that thought they were the cute one eventually see the light, grudgingly see the light, and then distance themselves from them after they, due to drugs, stole from them and did different things like that. Finally give up on them. But anyway, this cousin. Well, anyway, I had a female YouTuber. I would put her name on this. That tells a story how they're jealous of you, right? And their life is start falling apart. They're jealous of you, and when my hair was long and less gray, I had this cousin, I shit you not, he grew his hair. It was kind of blonde color. And there was times where you didn't see him, you'd see him passing, and maybe a year later you'd see him passing. He tried to grow his hair, he had it like kind of long, but it was his true color on the top, about this much of the head, like almost like he dyed his hair to look like me, and then gave up on it and started letting it grow out, and then cut it eventually later. This is the kind of shit that people will do, you know what I mean? But so this was a thing. To make a long story short, it went on for years and years, always in some kind of trouble, in and out of jail and all that. And you can dovetail all kind of other YouTubers into this that are trying to warn people that were in jail before, right, to avoid that. But being in and out of jail all these years, and there was a story on our local news that he committed an armed robbery, and I guess he was supposed to stay on trial for it or something, or whatever the hell, or whatever the hell. But yeah, last thing I heard of it and all that stuff, that then there was something I heard like years later he got out and then somehow he died and OD'd or something. But I followed the story. Well, this was over a bunch of years' time, I think over years ago. And then, see, I hear a rumor, my brother told me, oh yeah, he OD'd and died. So yeah, he kept over and over again And this ain't like you're being callous. Oh, every addict is a victim and blah blah blah. Some some are once some people shows you that shit, that yeah, your body, you can literally die from the withdrawal and shit. That's how bad the shit. I understand that. But you can have this relative, right, that every chance that held you up to ridicule, every chance they got, he thought they were all bad. Before they got real bad on the drugs, they were going to these parties, right? And even as teenagers and 20s, they'd be going out with these girls and these women and even girls younger than them, thinking he's so cute. And then even their mothers would be like, oh, he's so cute, and they're protecting him, you know what I mean? And then what happens is their luck runs out. And I did a video talking about this before where even though I can't stand that race baiting bullshit, everybody's saying racism this and racism that, I did a video specifically saying shit like this is where black people should be very pissed off. Because, like, I had a cousin that's like this, and I had friends and neighbors that were black in a neighborhood I used to live in, right? And whether, you know, some that were friends and neighbors that like you, and there were ones that were black that don't like you. Even the ones that were black that don't like me, I'd say up front, they all have the right to be pissed about situations I describe like this. Because that's the only case where I actually will absolutely agree. That's the one scenario, if you got this far in this video, that I absolutely, if you're black or even a white leftist that don't like me, well, some of the white leftists are probably like, even though they are make excuse and do the race baiting thing, the white leftist, quite frankly, would be calling me an asshole because, oh, you should have been doing drugs with him. You should have been bringing them right into your house. It's all your fault. When this dude didn't give a rat's ass for anybody, he used everybody he come in contact with, you know, broke in places. Even people that he was friends with and befriended, filching and stealing from them, and then strings of other kind of things in and out of jail for. You get one of them people that do so damn many things that the courts, in my opinion, let them plead out. But the reason why they let them plead out, because they do so fucking many things that the system doesn't want to deal with. So I guess urge them to plead out just so the court doesn't get dragged out in their particular case, because they're really to go through all the shit and investigate all the shit. Yeah, there are people that do that, do so damn many things that the courts can't even go through and all that. Yeah, they reap what they sow though too, because you know they never learn. They keep doing shit over and over because they think the whole fucking world revolves around them. And in cases, I'm basically talking about cases where you get a relative like that, not to be unsympathetic. I imagine there's a lot of people that change their life around on YouTube and different things like that, right? No offense to them. If they want to be offended or whatever, it's all on them. Oh, and these kind of people were in the churches too. You got liberals in the churches that that are under the mask of a conservative, and they're liberals, and they have these. And they even try to get the church and every other system to change their attitude, and they want to destigmatize drug abuse and drug addiction because, oh, that's my baby, he shouldn't have to go to jail. Well, there was even a guy, I worked in a cement factory, that was talking about a relative that was like that, and then their parents or whatever in a younger age was always trying to get them out of it and bailing them out of jail. And the dude was talking about him saying, hey, didn't they ever heard of tough love? Kind of tell him off or whatever the hell. And if you got this far in this video, oh really, whether you're a die-hard conservative, you know, some of them are like, I'll give you one chance or else 3 strikes and you're out, and you're out of here, which you have a right to do. Or even just give them one chance. For example, you get some diehard suit-wearing, pot-bellied conservative that, oh yeah, I should get a haircut or I look like I'm on dope. Even that one that don't like me, They have a right, if they have a relative, for their own safety, for the sake of the argument, for their own safety, you have a right to tell a relative to not come around anymore. Like, what the hell you think happened? Like, well, there was a shooting in Wilkinsburg. At one shooting in Wilkinsburg, where there was in our Pittsburgh news a few years back, there was they were all having a barbecue outside. Even a woman that was due to have a baby, over one guy that was involved in drugs. Their enemies put it that way. That was after the one guy. They shot all of him. Try to get the whole story right, but both black. You can both be both black or white. You can call the diehard conservative of that don't really like me anyway, but that everybody hates because, oh yeah, he should do, everybody deserves a second chance or whatever, or third or fourth. And then you get the diehard liberal, some of them even in the churches, oh, no matter what they did, that's my baby, and they have a right to try to tell you you should feel guilty for doing well because it hurts their bitch ass feelings, and they're literally protecting them because it's their baby or whatever, and literally they'll start making going on lobbying and rallying for political change and changing of laws. Not to go on and about that, because you can see them right there. They're trying to get laws made. You got that one. It's their son messed their life up with drugs and died, which you sympathize, but instead of seeing it for what it is and you sympathize, right? They literally, every little thing somebody else, their son's age, everybody on site, that's their son age that died of the drugs, they're jealous of. And everybody is supposed to downgrade or self-degrade their life and dictate your empathy. And you're supposed to feel bad for doing well because it hurts their bitch-ass feelings. And they don't always outright say it. They're projecting it in a way that you're supposed to read their mind, and they eventually, even not to your face, they're making these laws. They show themselves later. You see a few of them on TV, you read about them and all that shit. But anyway, I don't give a fuck who you are. If you had somebody that was related to you that screwed their life over drugs, I don't care if you're some diehard conservative that doesn't like the way I look, or you're on the left. You have a right to tell somebody to not come around that can endanger you. Yeah, their drug buddies or drug debt come around their house and harass you, or you give them a ride in the car to go somewhere. You're trying to give them a second chance, and the police pull you over. They got drugs. Depending on what state you are, authorities can confiscate property and cars. And I don't want to hear all that, oh, they can't do. Well, if you don't have a fancy lawyer and it costs more for a fancy lawyer, the authorities will try to do it, whether in some cases that they're variance from state to state, whether they're able or not. In some states where you go and tell me, oh, they can't do that, you're full of shit. Some authorities will go ahead and do it and get away with it if you don't have a fancy lawyer, or depending on what your car costs, it's not worth the trouble. But that's what can get into. Yeah, the police following them and they're looking at you, or worse yet, somebody after them over drugs that can endanger your life. But if you're some diehard leftist, it's like, oh, you should be right with them. I don't care about all that. Fuck you. Put it that way. So anyway, if you got anything out of this, if you had a relative like that wasn't worth the shit, in my case there was one, yeah, poor bastard's out of his own misery. I mean, and over and over again, if you had a relative like that, that's, like I said, that held you up to ridicule, and they were always doing shit to try to put you down and to bring themselves up socially, and then went to all these parties, thought they were shit, and then it all come back and reap, and they sowed what they reap. Not like you. I'm not telling you to dance on their grave or anything, but if you have a right to not give a fraction of a shit. I mean, in some cases, in some crowds, if you express that you really don't give a shit, you can be labeled some kind of monster, especially among their relatives that are, some of them that are related to you or whatever, and all that stuff too. But yet, of course, if it was you, oh boy, you wouldn't get away with half the shit they got away with. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, there are some places where you're not allowed to openly laugh. But yeah, I'm basically trying to talk about, like, if any of you out there looking at this video had that kind of a relative, that kind of cousin or something like that. But then it's like I said earlier in the video, if you had somebody that shamefully you were close to and they changed, I'm not going to laugh at you about it or either. Or if you were somebody that recovered or that quit doing that shit and went into rehab, I'm not looking to offend you or laugh at you or whatever too. But I'd rather have you notice right away that, like, there are probably people like you that are probably jealous of you, that you don't got to give a fraction of a shit. And you don't have, and basically you have a right to be proud of your own life and let anybody that's jealous of you, that was in the same boat as you, guilt you or anything. Or somebody like me that never been into any of that shit, you know what I mean? Which in some cases I have a few relatives that I don't talk to or they don't come around, they want to be nosy. That for a fact that are jealous and maybe give me dirty ass looks for that, you know what I mean? But because they're jealous and all that stuff too. But yeah, I used to be in public restaurant and places when a cousin of mine was still around doing his shit like years ago. People that were his friends that were like, a lot of them were young girls or older women too, or whatever, just out of nowhere that would announce to you who they were. You're eating in some restaurant, telling you what an asshole you are, telling you what a selfish asshole you are for living your life and walking around with money in your pocket that you worked for, right? And just indulging and eating out. Oh, what a selfish asshole. And be telling you that you're the reason why the people that, the cute one that they're protecting, or telling you that you're the reason why the world is the way it is because you wouldn't take them into your house and help them. You wouldn't give up a bunch of or all of your money and degrade your life and just give it to them and keep helping them or whatever, you know what I mean? Anyway, I don't want to go on and on about that, but yeah, I've gotten that. Different people out there too that were friends of. Yeah, you probably, there may have been some of you out there that might have got that too. You don't even know from Adam until they announced who they are, or maybe you've seen some of them before and they say some nasty comment, making damn sure that they express it to you too. Like, hey, you're staying out of trouble and doing well for yourself and avoiding that shit, but yet you're supposed to be. Yeah, these people, a lot of them are liberal as hell. You're a monster, even though you don't express any opinion and that you don't give a shit. You're literally a monster just for doing well, and you're supposed to right off the bat, read their minds and feel guilty and just start giving all your money away so that they can put it up their nose or inject it in their veins or whatever the hell, Or, go right, you hear about them, go right and bail them out of jail or whatever too. Oh yeah, I can do a whole video separately on shit like that I used to get, from people that I hardly know, But yet those people too, eventually, like I said, reluctantly so, distance ourselves from them or whatever the hell too. But even when they do, they don't want to admit that they were ever wrong. And guess what? They take it out on the one, like whether it's me or you, that they keep walking by, they'll give you dirty looks or whatever too. They'll give you these dirty ass looks or whatever the hell too. Um, yeah, they'll do it right off the bat, and they take it out on the very people that they're jealous of because their little whatever their little science project failed. The cute one that they were defending, you know, it just they don't want to be wrong. That's what it. Yeah, that's what it is. So basically, telling you this is how these people eventually end up. You know what I mean? That's the whole moral to this story. Yeah, I told my partner this and all that before too, talking about this. Decided to say it in a video, but just to end this, you do not have to give a shit. You're not required, and nobody can dictate to you, and nobody should try to shame you for doing well just because act like you're some kind of monster for doing well when some other little asshole basically reaped what they sowed and fucked their life up. You know what I mean?